And a leader has to be a follower first before they'll be able to lead.
Who are some of the leaders that you have looked to or that inspire you?
Definitely Dr. Young and Dr. Ellis were some of like the most pivotal people for me, especially, you know, in undergrad, having Dr. Young in a civil rights class and learning about like the Black women in civil rights movement, you know, and most of the time Black women usually get written out of history or, you know, our full side of history isn't being told. So being able to stand firm in that class and be like, listen, Black women have always been the backbone of the movement.
Conversations with Nicole. Conversations with Nicole. Let's talk about it. Tell me all about it. I'm here. I wanna know what's on your mind. Ooh, the world needs to hear from you, and I'm so glad to have a conversation to reach the nation. And it's all about you. We'll help each other to discover innovative ways to positively change the world. Let's talk about, let's talk about, yeah. Let's talk about conversations with Nicole.
I am delighted to be here with Marie Rattigan, activist, change agent. Welcome.
Hello, hello. I'm excited to be here with the one and only Nicole.
Right. So you and I actually met some years ago
Right.
at an event at FSU, and you were a student getting interviews of your own for, I think, an article you were writing or something.
For J School.
Yes. So tell me about the journey to FAMU. Like, you're from South Florida.
Right. The journey as being a two-time graduate from the illustrious Florida Agricultural Mechanical University has been amazing. FAMU has definitely added to my experience and helped to mold me into the person I am today. I transferred to FAMU with my AA in broadcast journalism from Broward College. I'm from Broward.
Okay.
And I got my master's as well as my bachelor's in broadcast journalism. Was my undergrad, and African American history was my master's program.
Gotcha. And how was that matriculation for you?
Oh, wow. For undergrad, it was different because I went from a community college to a university, being able to, you know, maneuver differently, but it was definitely worth it. The School of Graphic and Communications was amazing.
Okay.
Definitely very hands-on. When I got here, I knew that I wanted to do something in media. I started writing articles. Professor Blackburn was amazing and one that always helped me. Miss Hope. I'm like trying, Mr. Jones. I'm trying to remember all
Don't try to shout them out.
But that was for undergrad. For my master's program, it was very intense because, as we know, African American history is just intense in itself, and African American history is part of American history, right? So we read like 30 books the first semester. Dr. Young, Dr. Ellis were my mentors. Dr. Ellis drove me up the wall. I was crying, but I made it through.
You did.
But it was phenomenal. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Now, why African American history?
Because I feel like a good journalist is a good historian, right? But also I want to go into law soon. And being able to learn about history is how I'll be able to look at the law through a different lens.
What did you find at FAMU? Did you find Marie at FAMU?
I did. I definitely did. I grew into like this phenomenal woman.
Yes, you did.
Oh my God, I grew into this. I'm like looking at pictures from like the time prior to FAMU, and I'm like, wow, that is really me. Like, I got my voice hair, like my voice like sprouted hair. I always been a talker and a networker, but J School definitely drilled that in me. Like, you gotta talk, you gotta be about your business.
Right. Now, you were former leader of Dream Defenders.
Yes, ma'am. I was the lead organizer for Dream Defenders in Tallahassee, and I was with that organization for about 7 years. So while getting out of high school, I led my first like walkout for Trayvon Martin. So it's been amazing.
Wow. Was that your first community organizing position?
It was actually, and it's definitely like one of my homes and one of my babies, because I learned so much about being an organizer in Dream Defenders.
What do you think the lessons were, like maybe 3 lessons that you learned during that experience?
To have one-on-ones with people, right, and to be able to figure out their why. Being able to figure out what moves them, what drives them. I think that's very important. Being able to make connections in your community. And, you know, we could protest a lot, but we also have to remember we have to have a call to action. Like, what are we doing next? Like, protesting isn't the only thing that we could do. We can have a social media forum, you know, especially because of COVID, we had to transition into having Zoom meetings and having thousands of people on Zoom talking about Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, call to actions, talking about HB1, talking about a lot of things that were happening, and also like the importance of being a leader, you know, and a leader has to be a follower first before they'll be able to lead.
Who are some of the leaders that you have looked to or that inspire you?
And Dream Defenders, let's see, Rachel, Jonelle, but in like in general, like at FAMU, definitely Dr. Young and Dr. Ellis were some of like the most pivotal people for me, especially, you know, in undergrad, having Dr. Young in a civil rights class and learning about like the Black women in civil rights movement, you know, and most of the time Black women usually get written out of history or, you know, our full side of history isn't being told. So being able to stand firm in that class and be like, listen, Black women have always been the backbone of the movement. So that has been phenomenal, but I've definitely had a lot of professors who poured into me at FAMU, and even when I couldn't see it for myself, they seen it in me, and I'm definitely thankful for the FAMU.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
Now you are serving as legislative aide.
I am a legislative aide.
And I'm sure that experience is quite interesting.
Right.
So just tell me a little bit about you transitioning from, say, a Dream Defenders, which is, you know, very vocal, to, you know, now being quite, you know, reserved and reviewing some policies and things of that nature. What's that been like for you? Is this just another side of Marie that This
is actually another side of Marie Rattigan outside of Dream Defenders. I'm definitely branching into a phenomenal woman and tapping into like who I have always been. I knew that I wanted to get into policy. I interned with Senator Perry Thurston out of Broward County in 2018, and I was able to be in the Capitol with him and also sit into meetings, and I knew like this is something that I want to be in eventually in the future, and this opportunity came and I definitely could not have passed it by. So I'm with Representative Felicia Robinson, and she's a phenomenal woman, a 28-year educator, graduated from Tuskegee, you know, shout out to all the HBCUs, because historically Black colleges and universities definitely impacts us, you know.
Indeed.
So being there now, oh wow, has been great, but it's like, last year at this time, we were talking about like George Floyd, we were talking about Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, Olatoyin, Tony McDade, you know, even people right here locally in Tallahassee. And I was on the streets, I was organizing protests, I was like going through a mental drain. I had my first panic attack, you know, Jamie Johnson, like, the gentleman from FAMU who was killed in Jacksonville by a police officer. So it was like I was holding a lot while also being on the streets, while burning up in the sun, while trying to engage with people, while trying to have a call to action, while trying to let people know like we have to be doing more. Fast forward to this year, as a legislative aide and being able to see the bill text for what it is, read through the bill text, like really analyze the bill text and what it really means, like when they say certain things in these bills, and what does freedom really mean and what does freedom really look like? And is freedom for everybody or is it for a select few?
I guess it depends on who you're talking to, right?
Right.
And the interpretation of that text.
Right.
Let's talk about conversations with Nicole.
Stay tuned for more conversations with Nicole.
What is good, Tallahassee? If you are a brand, a business owner, a real estate agent, an entrepreneur, an artist of any kind, be sure to contact us at 7 Figure Vision for all of your photography and videography needs. We can shoot your next music video, event, documentary, or even document the process of your next flip as a real estate investor. So be sure to book us right now at VIIFIGUREVISION.com, or you can visit us on Facebook or Instagram at VIIFIGUREVISION.
Let's talk about conversations with Nicole.
So it's been a couple years now since Ahmaud Arbery was murdered, and we saw the verdict that went down to
Right.
his murderers. I think, a lot of people feel like justice has finally been served, and
Right.
Black lives do truly matter.
Right.
What are your thoughts about that whole ordeal?
Ooh, that's a lot. And I think that was a slight victory. And as an organizer, it's important for us to take these victories when it comes, because we tend to not see it so often, right? And I think that, okay, like the criminal justice system worked for Ahmaud Arbery, but there is countless amount of people that we know that go unnamed, they're like created into hashtags, and sometimes we don't find out until years later of their story and what happened to them. So I think it was a slight victory, but more needs to be done.
Absolutely.
Yeah, more needs to be done. We could celebrate for the little things, but there's a lot more.
What are some things that you would like to tell young people around using their voice?
Wow, yes. I would say if you're in the movement, don't feel like you always have to be on the streets. find your voice. You could be an artist, you could be a poet, you could be a singer. Everybody has something to contribute to the movement. It's not linear. Like, you don't have to be an organizer, or you don't have to be someone who wants to protest. Use your social media. An influencer in this day and age is very important. And if you are an influencer, you have to not take that lightly, because you are influencing people around you. You are shaping people's narratives. And that's why on my social media platforms, I try my best to uplift people, because we already have a lot of things that we're going through. We're seeing that Black men right now at the highest at suicidal rates. We're seeing like the misses, you know, committing suicide. And I just say that it's very important for us to be kind to one another, be loving to one another. So use your voice. Whatever you feel is your why. Like, why do I wake up in the morning? I want to be the best ancestor that I can be. So when I leave this earth, what are you going to remember me as? Are you going to remember me as an entrepreneur? You're going to remember me as a rebel, a fighter, someone for the cause. You're going to remember me for a plethora of things, but what wakes you up in the morning?
Absolutely, that's great. Now, you've mentioned panic attack, you've mentioned suicide, and that's all mental health. So how important is mental health in your life, and do you imagine is in the life of a community organizer?
Right, I think mental health is extremely important, and we definitely tend to shy away from it, or we wait until it's too late before we get help. And after that one panic attack, I definitely had to now see a therapist, because it was so much going on. And as an organizer, not only are you organizing the people, but you're also taking on the burden of communicating with people. Like, people think that they can flock to you and lay all of their problems out on you, and you don't have anybody to fill you up because you're too busy pouring out for everybody. And I think that's what really hit. Like, after I watched the video of Jamie Johnson, something told me not to watch the video, and it was just him saying, I think he was like, please don't leave me here, or I don't want to die here. And I think that's when it was like over for me. Like, I literally had a panic attack. I could not breathe. Like, I just remember my best friend is on speed dial on my phone. So I remember like literally telling Siri to call her and not being able to breathe. And at that very moment, I was like, I could just imagine how George Floyd felt. I could just imagine like gasping for air, like your lungs are like trying to push out, you know, and it's like, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And I'm like trying to calm myself down, and I can't, because I'm like, now Jamie Johnson flew in my head, but now I think it was just a ripple effect of literally what was going on in summer of 2020, like traveling to different places and going to protests, traveling to, you know, be with different people, family, like being home in Broward County and, you know, being with people who were hit with rubber bullets. Like, I wasn't specifically hit with rubber bullets, but there were people I know that were like the tear gas, like just everything just collided into one. And I think that's why it went really, really bad.
Yeah, no, I had a moment like that as well in 2020. So I definitely can relate to that.
Yeah.
And so, moving on to a happier note, you are preparing for law school.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I am currently taking the LSAT, one of the most streetiest tests ever, Lord, but I would get through it.
You are going to get through it.
So the next time I come back, or the next time
That's
y'all
right.
hear me talking to Miss Nicole, I got into the schools that I wanted to get into.
Indeed.
And we're just speaking that into existence, because it's important about manifesting.
Absolutely, and we are affirming that with you.
Amen.
So what are the goals as it relates to law school?
Right, so the universities that I'll be applying to is UF, FAMU, Stetson, Thurgood, Howard. Howard is the Mecca.
It is.
And I can't remember if I said Thurgood Marshall School of Law. And I think just the powerful, just like the power in the name Thurgood Marshall, right? And the reason why the school was founded, you know, so that's what I'm looking into. And of course I want to practice like civil rights or criminal.
Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
So that's where my goals are.
Awesome. Let me ask you, what do you think is the difficulty that we have talking about race?
I think that people just don't want to have the conversation. I think that's really what it is. People are afraid to have the conversation. They're afraid to feel uncomfortable. That's really what it is. They're afraid to feel uncomfortable, and it's like, this is something that our ancestors were talking about. People were talking about in the 50s and the 60s, you know, and we're gonna have to continuously have these uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah.
It's here. It's not something that we could push under the rug, because we've seen the trickle effect of slavery. Then we see mass incarceration, and then we see the new Jim Crow, and then we now see like different policies. There's different things that are being pushed. So we're gonna have to talk about it. There's no going around it. We just gotta talk about it.
Yeah, we do. We do. Talk about it scared, right?
Right. Right. Scared or unafraid.
Yeah.
Black or white.
Absolutely. Now, how does being a woman, a Black woman specifically, inform your leadership?
Wow, I said it earlier, Black women have always been the backbone of the movement, and a lot of Black women just don't get credited for a lot of things that they've contributed to the movement. But as a Black woman, I feel that, I was gonna say a chant, but I feel like it is my duty to fight for our freedom. It is my duty to win. It's my duty to love and respect one another, because we have nothing to lose but our chains. And that's Angela Davis.
All right.
I love her so much.
All power to the people, right?
All power to the people. Yeah, I think that is my duty, you know, and while being in the movement, it's also important for Black women to rest. Ooh.
I'm glad you said that.
Black women should be resting. Black women deserve joy. Black women deserve the idea of luxury. We do.
I'm glad you said that, because I think many Black women put on that superwoman cape, or several superwomen capes, and we feel like we have to be strong, and we have to, you know, maintain this strength that's not vulnerable, and that sort of thing. And so I'm glad to hear you say that we do need to rest, and we do deserve luxury.
I'm here to say that Black women, we need to be rested, because we have always been the ones to carry the weight. Not saying Black men don't, but they definitely do, and they're our partners. But you know, Black women just do a lot. Indeed.
Now, my final question is, what do you believe is your greater work?
Ooh. You know, I know that it's to help people, right? And you know the instance that happened to me when I was 13 years old. And I think I've been called to just activate, to be able to activate, to be able to inspire until I expire. You know, and I'm just a firm believer into pouring into people, you know, because you never know what people are going through. You never know. So being able to just bless you with some words of encouragement, just let you know you're not alone, God is with you, because I'm a God-fearing woman.
Indeed.
And I believe that nothing happens by coincidence. And everything that has happened to me is definitely being the catalyst or pushing me into the right direction. And I just continue to ask God to continue to order my steps, but allow me to see the woman that He has called me to be.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Keep shining brightly, keep winning.
Thank you, thank you.
And keep walking on purpose. I want to thank you so much for giving me a few moments today.
No problem.
And you definitely have to come back.
All right, I definitely will. Anything for conversations with Ms. Nicole.
All right, y'all heard it right here. All right. And thank you all for joining us on Conversations with Nicole, where we are connecting the community through conversations. We'll see you next time.